Hello and welcome back. So for this video, I'm going to go through some of the basic operations for the X1 Pro and ProMax, its features and how to get the most out of this fantastic little drone. So I've been using the ProMax for almost a year now, and for me it is my favourite go-to drone. I do quite a bit of cycling and it's ideal because obviously it just folds up, it can slip into the back pocket of my jersey and I'm away to go. But not only that, when I go walking it can fit into my backpack or into my cargo shorts. Plus you've got the added bonus that most of the settings can actually be done directly on the drone, so it's so versatile. It does give excellent video quality and it's just a dream to use, and I'll go through the settings with you now. So let's crack on with the drone itself. So there are two versions. There's the Pro and ProMax, and although they are very similar, the main difference is to do with the resolution in which you can record. So the Pro will do up to 4K 60, whereas the ProMax will do 4K 120 and 8K 30. Now if you've got the Pro, then you've got internal memory of 32 gigabytes. If you've got the ProMax, you've got an internal memory of 64 gigabytes. And also on the side of the drone, you've got a micro SD card, so you can expand that memory further. So in order to get stable footage, the Pro and the ProMax both have a 2-axis gimbal. So not only does the gimbal move from up and down, but it'll also rotate around its axis. Now both drones will take ND filters. And for those of you who aren't aware of what ND filters are, they're usually described as sunglasses for drones. And what they do is they limit the amount of sunlight hitting the sensor of the drone. So when used in conjunction with what is known as the 180 rule, it'll make your footage seem more cinematic, giving it motion blur. Now the ND filters come in a range of 8, 16, 32 and 64. So you generally use an 8 ND filter on a cloudy day or overcast day, and then going up to a 64 on a really bright sunny day. So to install an ND filter, you simply hold the gimbal and then push up slightly on the empty frame, and that'll come away, and then you take the new ND filter and just slot it into its place on the gimbal. Now, as I mentioned, you've got the 180 rule. And what this means is you should try and set the exposure on the drone to twice the frame rate of the drone. So if, for example, you're shooting in 30 frames a second, then your exposure should be 1/60th of a second. Now, you can do this manually in the Pro mode of the drone, but you've also got the option within the app itself to tell the drone what ND filter you're actually using, and then that'll try and compensate automatically for the filter and the exposure. So now we'll move on to sensors. On the Pro and the ProMax, you've got sensors on the bottom which will help with the positioning and takeoff and landing. Now on the rear of both drones, you've got proximity sensors, but on the ProMax, you've also got a visual detection system. Now a lot of people get confused with this, thinking that it's got an obstacle avoidance system, but it hasn't. It's got an obstacle detection system. Obstacle detection only registers that there's something there, and then it'll stop the drone from actually colliding with it. It doesn't avoid it. Now the detection system only works up to 5 miles an hour. So if you're using the automated flight modes such as zoom out, then it's great because the drone is zooming out below 5 miles an hour. The camera will detect an obstacle such as a tree and stop. But now this is where the difference comes in. If, for example, you're running or you're on a bike and you're doing over that 5 mile an hour mark and the drone is doing a dolly track, so it's moving backwards, and there's an obstacle such as a bush or a tree, the drone is not going to be able to avoid that, and it is going to crash into it because you've gone over that 5 mile an hour threshold. So really these sensors will only really save your drone totally if you do it in automated flight mode. So there are no side sensors or top sensor on either of the drones. So this means if the drone is traveling in a sideways direction or ascending, there's always the chance that it could crash into something. So you need to be aware of the environment that you're actually flying the drone in. So the first thing you need to do when you get your drone is to charge the batteries. Now you've got two ways of doing this. You can either do it directly on the drone itself by plugging the charger into the USB-C connection on the left-hand side, or you can use the dedicated charging hub. So if you want to know your current battery level, all you need to do is to press the mode button at the top of the drone, and then the drone will display how much power is left in that individual battery. So installing the battery on the drone is pretty straightforward. On the bottom, you've got a selection of pins. They go at the rear of the drone, and then the battery just slides in and clicks. And the hover logo is always at the front of the drone, so you know which way the battery goes in. Similarly, to take the battery out, then you just hold the drone, pull out from the front, and it just clips out. If you are using the dedicated charging hub, it'll take 45 minutes to charge one battery, or an hour to charge 2 batteries simultaneously if your charger is rated 65 watts or higher. So to install the batteries in the charging unit, you've got the pins at the top, so the battery just slots in where you got the Hover logo then facing towards the bottom. And all you need to do is to plug your USB-C cable into the unit itself for the batteries to charge. And if you need to check the battery power level, if you press the button in the center, up to 4 lights will come on, each one meaning the battery is charged 25%. So if you've got 4 lights on, that's 100%. If you've got 3 lights, that's 75%. 2 lights, that's 50%. And to remove the batteries, you just pull from the bottom and take them out. Now to switch the drone on, you press and you hold the mode button at the front of the drone, and after 2 seconds, it'll power on. And similarly, to power off the drone, you press and you hold the mode button again, and 2 seconds, it'll power down. Now the first icon on the top left is the Omni Terrain icon, and this is where the drone is going to be searching for a satellite signal to help with positioning. And this will keep moving until a satellite signal is detected. If it doesn't detect a signal, you will get a larger icon appear in the middle of the screen, but the drone will still carry on trying to find a signal in the background. Next to that is an icon of an SD card, and that's going to show you how much time you've got left on the SD card that's inserted into the drone. Then in the top right, you've got your battery percentage and your battery level. And in the middle of the screen, you've got the current flight mode and the parameters that you're able to set in relation to that flight mode. Now with the flight mode, all the parameters are different for each individual mode. Now one of the things I really like about the Pro and the Pro Max is that you can set the parameters for your flight mode directly on the drone itself. You don't need to go into the app to set the majority of settings for it to fly. So you only need to go into the app to set things like the video mode or the color profile, or whether or not you want the footage to be in horizontal or vertical. On the drone itself, you've got a flight mode button, which is a circle in the middle, and you've got an outer ring. Now if you press the outer ring, either left or right, the drone is then going to scroll through the 13 different flight modes that are available to you. So for example, I'm going to now take the orbit.
Orbit.
Now on the bottom, underneath the word orbit, you can see that you've got 3 parameters, and this is going to be your distance, the altitude, and how many revolutions you want the drone to take. Now as with all of the flight modes, this can be changed directly on the drone. So you just need to hold and press the outer ring on one side, and then one of the options will start to flash. When it starts to flash, you then do short presses on the same side or the opposite side if you want to go backwards, and that is going to change those flight parameters. So if you press and hold the outer ring again for 2 seconds, it's then going to move on to the second set of parameters, and again you can choose these by either pressing left or right. And if you've got 3 parameters, if you press and hold the outer ring again for 2 seconds, the drone is then going to move on to the third parameter, and you can scroll through to set this to whatever value you want. And finally, when all 3 are set, you just press the middle button, and then that will fix those parameters into the drone for that flight mode. If you've seen my other videos, you know they're not sponsored, so if you could do the like and subscribe thing, try and get me up to 500 subscribers, that would be great. And there's also a link to buy me a coffee in the description below. That would also be appreciated. So the first is hover. Now with hover, the drone will take off and you can position it wherever you want it to be. From there, you've got an option for it to track you or not. If you choose for it to track you, as you move around the drone will just follow you around from that fixed location. If you choose to have tracking off, the drone will stay in that one direction and will only film you as you are going into the field of view and back out. So with follow mode, the drone will be at a fixed distance and height away from you, and then as you move away from the drone, it'll follow you as the name suggests, keeping you in the centre of the frame. Now the drone will track you at about 20 miles an hour in follow mode, so this is ideal if you're running, jogging, or using skateboards, that type of thing. Now orbit is pretty straightforward. The drone will move from a fixed position around the subject, anything from half a revolution up to 3 revolutions. And with this, you can set the distance it is away from you and also the height being low, flat or high. Now I find when you're using things like orbit, the higher the drone is, the better your footage is going to be, because there's going to be less chance of parts of it being overexposed and blown out. Now when you do 1, 2 or 3 complete revolutions, the drone is going to start and stop at the same location. So you're always better off starting with the drone either to the side of you or to the rear of you. And this is because if you start with the drone in front of you, then you're going to have a nice smooth footage of the drone going around your back, but then it's going to stop when it's in front of you, and that's going to ruin the footage. If it's at the rear of you, it's going to start off at the rear, come around and get you fully in the frame as it rotates around you and then stops at your back. Again, if you are trying to film you looking out at the landscape. You could start it on the side, so then you have the drone coming from the side, bringing you fully into view, and then coming round to the other side and then bringing the landscape into view before it finally stops at the end. 360 spin is where the drone stays in one location and then does a number of revolutions filming the scenery around it. Now dolly track is where the drone is in front of you, and as you approach the drone will move backwards, always keeping you in shot. Now to get the best out of dolly track, you need to have it at a middling to far distance, and again having it flat and higher. So the higher it is, the better. It's going to be more sustainable. You also need to keep a consistent speed up when you're walking towards the drone to get the most out of it. And again, even though it's got proximity sensors on the rear of the drone, if you do exceed that 5 miles an hour, there is a chance the drone could crash if there is something in its path behind it. Now dolly zoom is more of a special effect mode. Now you may have seen the scene in Jaws where the police officer Brody is sitting on the beach. The camera zooms into his face, but at the same time the background expands. And this is what the drone does. It'll zoom into you as it pulls back, keeping you at the same size but expanding the background. And then on the return it'll start to pull out from you as it zooms in on the background, giving you a weird but quite distinctive effect. Next, bird's eye. Now with bird's eye, the drone will start at a fixed position and then it'll rise to a predetermined height. Now you've got the option of the drone looking downwards as it descends or looking forward as it descends. And now cycling mode is one of my favourites, and it's got a number of settings specifically for cyclists. You can set, for example, the type of environment you're in, whether it's narrow if you're mountain biking or whether or not it's wide if you are out going cross country. It allows you to tell the drone what type of environment you're in, whether or not you're going through forests on things like a single track, or whether or not you're going through fields or on roads on a wider environment. Now if you're on a single track, the drone will follow you more closely and avoid things like trees because it follows your path quite accurately along the track. Whereas if you're in a more open environment, it does tend to do more sweeping turns to keep you in frame. They've also got a smart ascent feature within the cycling mode, and I have done a separate video for this. And what this does, it detects cyclists who are beneath the camera, and then it'll rise above them to keep you in frame, and then as it passes them, it'll drop down. But you need to bear in mind that because there's no top sensors for the drone, there is a risk that it could crash if it rises up above cyclists who are in front of you. And if you watch the video that I've produced, you'll see exactly what happened. Now with ski mode, I'll be honest, I don't really know much about it, but I'm assuming it's going to be very similar to the cycling mode where the drone will track you with greater accuracy as you're going downhill. Now indoor follow is used for when you want the drone to keep very close proximity to you as you move around a building. So this means if you are going from room to room or upstairs, the drone can follow you quite accurately from these different locations without encountering any problems. Now the snapshot mode is very similar to the hover mode, in which the drone stays in a fixed location. As you move around, the drone will follow you, but if you stop for 3 seconds or more, the drone will then take a photograph. Then you keep moving, stop again for another 3 seconds, and the drone will take another photograph. And it'll keep on doing this until you land the drone. Now side track again is exactly what it says on the tin. The drone is going to track you from the side and keeping you in the centre of the frame. And again, to get the most out of this mode, you should have it at a middling to far distance and high. And also try and keep your speed consistent so the drone can keep up with you, and then you're going to get the best results. But again, like the other modes, there's no side sensors, so make sure that the path the drone is going is clear. Now spiral mode is going to be very similar to the orbit mode. But instead of the drone keeping to a predetermined height, the drone is going to start to rise as it rotates around you. And again, because there's no sensors on the side of the top of the drone, you need to be aware of the environment that you're flying in. Zoom out is where the drone starts in front of you and then moves away from you to a predefined distance and predefined height. If you've got the tracking on, the drone will keep track of you and keep you in the centre of the frame as it moves. But if you turn the tracking off, this means you can then track something which is inanimate. But you need to start off with the drone directly facing you and then move out of the shot. If you are using some of the further distances, like 50 or 100 feet, you will need to have Omni Terrain switched on. I just want to reiterate the fact that I'm not sponsored, so if you could do the like and subscribe thing or the buy me a coffee in the link below, that's greatly appreciated. So now we'll move on to the app. Now once you've got your drone connected to the app, if you go through to the main page, on the bottom middle you'll see an icon which says hover, and you need to select this to connect through to your drone. And from this screen you're going to see 4 different options: hover settings, locate my hover, hover album and hover care. The hover care button will just display the information related to the hover care package if you've got it on your drone. Now this will show you things like your status, your area, details of the drone itself, when it was activated and the termination date, how many days you've got remaining. It's also going to show you things like the damage replacement times, the flyaway coverage, the factory maintenance, your discounts off repair, and also the option if you've had a loaner device. Now if in the event that you lose your drone, you can use Find My Hover to quickly display the drone's last known location. Now I've done a separate video to this and I'll put a link for that in the description below. Now the next setting does confuse some people, and that's to change flight modes. Now if you go into this, it's going to show you all the flight modes you've got currently installed on the drone. Now sometimes Hover will release an update for a new flight mode, but it's not actually shown until you tell the drone that you want to use it. So what you need to do is click on the green change flight modes button, and then that will bring you up to all the flight modes that are available. From here, you can scroll through the ones that you want to use. So for example, for me, I don't go skiing, so I can deselect the skiing mode, and then that's going to come away from the drone, so it's not going to show in the menu when I'm scrolling through. Another thing you can do is change the order of the flight modes. So you simply need to press and hold the icon that you want to move, and then slide it from one place to another. And then when you finish, just press the back icon on the top left. Now if you go to hover settings, that's going to allow you to change the flight modes and other parameters associated with the drone. So on the top right, you've got an icon where you can change the name of the drone. Then underneath that, you've got all the different flight modes and the parameters associated with that flight mode. And if you go to a flight mode like bird's eye, you can then change any of the settings related to that flight mode. Now you can have different camera settings for each individual flight mode, but I wouldn't really recommend that. And this is because you could end up ruining a full day's worth of filming. So you don't want to go out and find that all your main footage is in landscape, but then you've got a bird's eye which is in portrait. So to save time, what you can do is select the settings you want in the bottom section and then click on the yellow apply to all modes button, and then that will carry those settings to all 14 camera modes. So if you scroll further down, you can see another section called general settings. Now, as I explained earlier, you can use ND filters with a drone, and this is where you change that setting. So you simply need to go to the ND filter optimization, select that, and then select which ND filter that you've got fitted to the drone. So below that, you've got the sound recording option. Now this is useful if you are out and about and you're filming and you want to make a audio recording of what you're seeing and what's going on in the surrounding area. Now with this, the drone will record audio via your mobile phone directly over the footage of the drone. You've got 2 options of noise reduction. Now in both, the drone is going to remove the propeller noise, but in the normal one, it's going to leave in the ambient noises around you, and in the extreme, it'll take everything out and just concentrate on your voice. So I've got the DJI Mic 2 connected to my phone now, and I'm doing dolly track as I walk along the beach, and I've got the drone in flat and middle distance away from me. Also on the bottom of the main screen, you're going to have 2 other buttons, being Smart Preview and Manual Control. So Smart Preview will give you a display of what the drone is actually seeing, and that's going to be used for things like hover, where you need to position the drone in a particular location. And then Manual Control allows you to fly the drone directly from the app. So there's a lot more to manual control, so I've done that in a separate video and the link for that is below. And finally, under general settings, you're going to get some other miscellaneous options. Now these will include things like the watermark setting, the image optimization of whether you want standard or portrait, the firmware you've got, how much storage you've got, the voice settings, which relates to the voice on the drone itself and the volume of that, and also if you need to calibrate the IMU. Now this video only covers a small aspect of the capabilities of the Pro and the Pro Max. I have done other videos on using the manual mode, of using the beacon, co-pilot and also the joystick mode, and all those will be linked below. If you found it useful, please do the like and subscribe, and there's also an option to buy me a coffee. That's in the link below as well. If you've got any questions or any feedback on the video or the drone or anything you would like to see, let me know and I'll do my best to answer them, and I'll catch you again next time. Thanks very much. Bye.